I haven't done this in a while. Why am I so anxious? What the fuck? My heart rate just spiked. I don't know if it's anxiety or coffee. Oh, this is not going to go well, is it? Hello my bookworms, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sydney and today's video will be a if you like this book, then you should try this book video. So hey, what's up? How are ya? I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. I really like these videos. I think that they are a super helpful, like, specific recommendation idea. And I've wanted to make one since I started being here on your screen, but I felt like I had to read more books to have a wider variety of things to recommend before I started like making recommendation videos. And I feel like I'm there. I feel like I can start doing this. So that being said, we're doing one today, and I have 5 really, I think, solid recommendations for you guys based off of other books that you may have loved. But before we get on into the video, I want to thank today's sponsor, which is BetterHelp. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I was so excited to be able to partner with BetterHelp and bring you guys a little discount code here on my channel. Growing up, I have always struggled with depression and anxiety. I went through a very, very dark patch growing up, and if you know anything about depression and anxiety, those feelings don't always go away, even though you're in a better place now than you were. Sometimes those feelings still creep around and still feel like they're controlling your life in some way. If you think that you might be feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, BetterHelp is here to help. BetterHelp offers over 20,000 different licensed and accredited therapists who are trained in all manners of expertises to help you, which is fantastic for all of us because if you match with a therapist that you, for whatever reason, are not vibing with, it is super easy to switch again and again until you find someone that you are super comfortable with sharing and growing with. You're able to schedule video or phone sessions anytime that is available, as well as unlimited direct messages. And obviously everything you share is completely confidential. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire describing what you're hoping to get out of the service, specific things that you're struggling with, as well as specific things you're looking for in your therapist. And I'm also here to tell you that I have a 10% off code that you are so welcome to use. It is my full username with no spaces, SydBookWarum, and you can use the link down in my description just to click it and get there right away. So again, thank you so much to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video, and we can get on into the rest of it. Okay, so I kind of want to start off strong with my first recommendation. If you read, enjoyed, or enjoy the sound of Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, this big heckin' chunker right here, my recommendation to you is Crown of Feathers by Nikki Pau-Preto. Not only do both of these books have winged, flying, fantastical creatures, have LGBTQIA representation, they're both predominantly women-driven stories. I'm gonna put this one down because it's frickin' heavy, okay? Crown of Feathers is the first book in an epic fantasy trilogy where we follow multiple characters. One of the most predominant is Veronica. She has grown up as a war orphan alongside her older sister, Val. And in this world, there are legendary Phoenix riders who were basically stomped out by the government, to say the least. And Veronica has always grown up dreaming of becoming one of those legendary Phoenix riders. But after a horrible betrayal by her older sister, Val, she decides to run off and try to find the legendary Phoenix riders and join their ranks even if she has to disguise herself as a boy. As she finally is starting to feel at home in her new surroundings, new skin, so to say, her older sister shows up and thus begins even more drama within the story. And not even to mention, the Empire is also making moves to destroy the Phoenix Riders once and for all. So like I said, the story is an epic fantasy, and those 2 plot lines are really only 2 of the 4 or something that we're following. So we have Veronica, we have Tristan, who is the Phoenix Riders commander's son. We also have Severo, who is one of the soldiers within the Empire's regime, and so many other really, really strong side characters, and not to mention the Phoenixes. This story was super intricate. The character development and relations between them progressed in a way that was really great, but also left you wanting more because it's a trilogy, which makes you want to pick the next one up right away. The next recommendation that I want to give you is if you liked The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, then I think that you would enjoy Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Not only, also, can we talk about these covers and how similar they literally are? We have a bee and a moth. They are going opposite directions, but they're super cute. And they're both foiled, you know, like it's just, even aesthetics are putting these two books together. And this one, you can see I have a bookmark in it. I haven't finished Strange the Dreamer yet, but this is the match that made me want to make this video, because as soon as I started reading Strange the Dreamer, literally probably within 5 pages, I had a thought of, this is so much like The Starless Sea. And let me explain, because even though they are obviously very different stories, the vibes are immaculate, and they are all there within both of them. The key thing that makes me feel like these books would be a great recommendation to go off of each other on is the writing. Erin Morgenstern has a beautiful way of making her world building and her descriptions absolutely lush and poetic and lyrical and stunning, and Laini Taylor is pretty much no different. If you enjoy that type of writing, I think that you would love both of these books. And also another key similarity that I see within these stories are the fantastical worlds that it revolves around. In The Starless Sea, obviously it's the Starless Sea and all of the labyrinth of doors that lead you to and from these different parts of the world to get to the Starless Sea, and so on and so forth. If you've read it, then you might know. And in Strange the Dreamer, we have the lost city of Weep, which is very similar in a sense of there are strange things surrounding the city of Weep where that wasn't always the city's name, and it was almost like one day the name of the city was just plucked from everyone's mind, and instead of saying the actual city's name, no matter when anyone tries to talk about it, Weep comes out, and the taste of tears are on the speaker's tongue. Like, that alone, if that doesn't interest you, then I don't know. Because I absolutely love that way too much. I was so excited about that comparison that I just didn't even tell you what Strange the Dreamer is about. And in this story, we have Laszlo Strange, who is a junior librarian, obsessed with the mythic lost city of Weep. No one has been able to travel to the city and come back alive in the whole history of, like, this existence, and it would take someone extremely bold to even try. That's when a god slayer shows up and offers him this opportunity, and Laszlo has to seize this chance or lose the opportunity forever. There are so many questions within this story that need answered, like what happened in Weep 200 years ago to cut it off from the rest of the world? What exactly did the Godslayer slay that went by the name of God? The answers await in Weep, but so do more mysteries. Fall into a mythical world of dread and wonder, moths and nightmares, love and carnage. Welcome to Weep. Sounds phenomenal, and I think that the similarities between these two books are not only aesthetically there, but lyrically, poetically, vibatically is not a word, but the vibes are there, people. Okay, the next recommendation that I want to talk about, I feel like everyone has heard of one of these two books, if not both of them. So we are going to say that if you have read or enjoyed the thought of reading Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, which is a phenomenal young adult sci-fi about our main character Spensa, whose father was a pilot who got shot down because he deserted. And Spensa has been labeled the daughter of a coward, which is making everything in life very difficult, not to mention getting into flight school. This story was absolutely fantastic. It has definitely made its way into my favorite books of all time, dare I say it. And again, if you have read this and loved it, then I would love to recommend to you Sleeping Giants by Sylvia Nouvelle. I've talked about Sleeping Giants a couple times here on my channel, and I'm going to say what I always say, and that is that the audiobook for Sleeping Giants is absolutely phenomenal. So if you are someone who loves to take in their stories audibly, this is definitely a good recommendation for that. Regardless, both of these amazing sci-fi stories are extremely unputdownable, honestly. Super exciting, super fast-paced, very character-oriented, and both of them will just leave you wanting more and more because they are both first books in their series. In Sleeping Giants, it starts with a girl named Rose who is riding her bike near her home in South Dakota when she basically just falls through the earth and into this giant metal hand. And years later, Rose grows up to be a highly trained physicist, and the mystery of this hand is still unknown. All of these 17 years later, Rose is now leading a top secret team determined to find out the hand's purpose and crack the code while powerful forces are moving in, demanding answers about the relic and what it portends for humanity. The story is told in like interview style format, and the person giving the interview, we don't know who it is. And again, the audiobook is just so phenomenal. Every single time that I talk about this book again in a video, it makes me so upset that I haven't finished the series because it is honestly phenomenal. It's so good. And the same with Skyward. As soon as I finished this book, I ordered the next one. Both of these sci-fi series, I think that their content and vibes could go very well together. So if either of these sound up your alley, I definitely recommend one and both of them. The next recommendation I have for you will be kind of like a coming of age, finding out my sexuality type story, and I will go into more of it. But the first one is, if you liked Dress Codes for Small Towns by Courtney Stevens, then I would recommend Camp by Elsie Rosen, and either both way. If you like this, you know how this works. Dress Codes for Small Towns is about our main character, Billy McCaffrey, and she is obviously living in a small town. Her father is the pastor of this small town, and she has always felt kinda like an outcast. It took her a long time to find her group of people that are, you know, her ride or dies. And eventually she kind of figures out that she's in love with her best friend Woods, but also her best friend Janie Lee. She's very confused, even more so because it brings in the factor that her dad's the pastor, and being any other way other than straight is not always accepted. And Billy doesn't want to put a label on anything before she even understands what's going on herself. When I read this book, I picked it up on a whim, hadn't really planned to read it the month that I did, and I was so pleasantly surprised. The characters in the story are absolutely hilarious and so relatable. The inner dialogue within Billy McCaffrey just felt like absolutely real in terms of what someone of her age would probably be thinking and going through when trying to figure out these like deep life questions of like, what's going on with me? And not only was it hilarious, but it was also like super, super quotable. I have so many underlines and brackets to where I will definitely come back to this book in the future and relive some of it. So if you've read this and really, really enjoyed it, then I would also like to recommend, like I said, Camp by Elsie Rosen. It is about our main character, Randy, who is going to this summer camp for queer teens. And he's been going for a few years, and he's like basically in love with this guy named Hudson. Hudson is a masculine guy who we come to find out is only into straight acting guys. And Randy is a not so straight acting guy. And this summer at camp, Randy decides to change his whole persona, take off his painted nails, change his hair, change his outfits, and his goal is to get Hudson to notice him. And it works. Hudson does notice him. They start to, you know, get together. But then Randy starts to realize and wonder if Hudson is actually falling for Randy as who he really is, or this persona that he's putting on. And this book has always been one of my favorite books of all time. I think that I started talking about this book 2 years ago, like when I started my channel, because not only is the story absolutely adorable and heartfelt and special, but it is also so real. And just like Dress Codes for Small Towns, this book is absolutely hilarious and adorable, and following Randy as he's figuring out all of these really important things that's going on within like his mind and what he's thinking is really special. And it's also following a story in which these two books also have something similar, where there is a musical happening at like the end of camp. A lot of things will come to light and a lot of things come like to climax, while in this story there is like a festival that happens towards the end of the book where a lot happens and a lot climaxes. And I just love both of these books. I think that if you like one, you should like the other, and I love them. The next recommendation that I have for you is if you liked The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Didn't realize until now that I have chosen 2 of her books for this list, but we're doing this anyways. But if you liked this story, then I think that you would like Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. And if not Where Dreams Descend, my secondary recommendation for The Night Circus is The Inheritance of Arcadia Divina by Zeradia Godorova. The most obvious recommendation for me was Where Dreams Descend because they are both about magical competitions. Night Circus is more of like a circus-esque, obviously, magical competition, whereas Where Dreams Ascend is like show magic competition, like on a stage type thing. I guess they might be kind of the same thing. In my mind, it's different. A circus is different than like going to a theater and watching a magic performance. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like they're a little bit different. But regardless, there are definite similarities here between the two, because in Where Dreams Descend, a group of magicians are facing off in a dangerous game of magical feats to find the next headliner for the Conquering Circus, which is, circus, here we are. But all of these magicians are finding out that they are under threat by unseen forces. They are starting to disappear one by one, and 3 of the magicians are forced to face their secrets head on before the darkness comes for them next. But these 2 books are like very oddly similar. The vibes are all there, the magic is there. I think that the Night Circus writing is a little bit more floral and lyrical than Where Dreams Descend, but I also feel like Where Dreams Descend might be a little bit more sinister than the Night Circus. So depending on what kind of vibe you like, both of these would be good options if you enjoy like a magical circus type thing. And then my other recommendation was for The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. And this one might be like a loosely related thing, okay? Because when I was reading this book, I just got Night Circus vibes. Not only Night Circus, I also got like Encanto vibes, because the grandmother in this story is literally exactly the grandmother from Encanto. But the writing in this story is absolutely beautiful. It made me think of the Night Circus, not only because of that, but there is like a very small portion of the book where a circus is a part of the plotline. It's not a focal point, but I don't know why, I just feel like this story had the vibes. In the story, Orquídea Divina is the grandmother to all of these children in her family, and she sends them a letter telling them that she is dying and they need to come and collect their inheritance. The whole family shows up to Orquídea Divina's house and they find her in this very magical state. She is growing into a tree. But within the story, there is like some hidden figure that is trying to pluck off Orquídea Divina's family line one by one. So some of the family is determined to save what's left of the family line, and they travel to Ecuador, where Orquídea Divina is from, to try to figure out what's going on and how to stop this like unseen force. And it's really good. It's very exciting. The writing is beautiful. And the biggest part about this book that I loved a lot is that it is all about family, with touches of like magical realism scattered throughout the story. It's just absolutely stunning. And again, even though the circus part was very minimal in the story, I felt like the magic and the vibes within the writing and storytelling reminded me a lot of the Night Circus. So there it is. And that is all that I have for you today. Once again, thank you so much to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. You can click the link down in my description to get 10% off. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. If you are still watching, then leave the clapping emoji down below in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I always appreciate your support. And of course, be kind to one another and happy reading. Bye.